enjoying the fall season. Do we have a quorum? Jen, do you know yet, or should we take attendance first?
We do.
All right, can you help me with the attendance? You muted.
Sorry about that. Kathy Baker. Pete Beckus,
Here.
Lina Brennan. Zach Brooks. Sarah Bruzy. Bob Coyne,
Here.
Mike Davis,
Head east on Rolling Meadows Way.
Jennifer DeVault,
Present.
Randy D'Antonio,
Here.
Bob Doblin, Sarah Amy, Tom Facer,
Here.
Rick House,
Here.
Michelle Youngerman,
Here.
Mike Kaufman,
Here.
Jolie Maslin,
Here.
Danielle Malloy,
Here.
Mike Manikowski,
Here.
Julia Murphy, Dr. Nye, Miss Parrish is across the hall, Joe Pellerite, Bonnie Percy, Dr. Ramos,
Here. Good morning.
and Miss Amy just joined. Christy Rollo is not going to be able to join us today. Mitch Rowe,
Here.
Mr. Pellerite just joined. Mr. Rosinko. Jen Senacropi. Eileen Tiberio. Miss Murphy just joined. Erica Wright.
Here.
And I know I admitted a few other people who did not say here. So the attendance is going to indicate that they have joined.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jen. So we do have a quorum. Any housekeeping? Lynn, anything you want to address there?
Yes, thank you. Just prior to the meeting, everyone got this survey. Thank you, everyone. We got a lot of responses last time. It is directing information that we're bringing to the board meetings and topics. So thank you very much. And as always, please take time again to go ahead and complete that and get that sent in. Thanks, Rick.
All right. That's the meeting evaluation that you're talking about, or is
Yeah,
that something else?
Correct, the meeting evaluation. Thank you.
Okay. All right, economic news and updates. I'll give an update for advanced manufacturing. Businesses have been pretty busy, but one of the things that's been slowing us down is difficulty in hiring people. I think this is being experienced in many different organizations across our community. But in the last, I'd say week to 10 days, the uptick in the COVID numbers is also a source of concern. I know for my company at Optimax, we were planning a holiday party early December, and yesterday we made the difficult decision to cancel that. So it's and vaccination, mandatory vaccination is something that's staring us in the face as well, and that's a challenge that we're trying to cope with. So that's what's been happening in our world. Anyone else? Healthcare, ag?
I can
Uh,
speak. Oh, sorry.
Jennifer,
I
are
can
you talking
speak.
about healthcare?
All right, let's go to Jennifer with healthcare, and then Sarah will come back to you.
So I don't think much has really changed. We are having significant staffing issues, just like everyone else. More positions open than we've ever had in my over 20 years here at the hospital. We have some staff that are on exemptions, religious exemptions, and we were informed late Monday that they need to be terminated on Monday. So we have 1 week notice, and if they don't get a vaccination by Monday, they will be gone as well. So that is going to hurt the way that we care for our community. This is really very frustrating that the state has done this to us. We continue to be very, very busy. The ED is overflowing, the hospital's overflowing, urgent cares are overflowing, and then to lose more staff on top of that, it makes it very hard with the increase in COVID numbers in the community, staff being out sick again. It's very scary coming into the winter season for healthcare right now.
Thank you, Jennifer. Last week, I saw a presentation by one of the doctors there in Canandaigua. He did a presentation for the Bloomfield Scientific Club about the Da Vinci system and how this robotic surgery method is much safer and quicker.
Yep,
Very
Dr. Peter, he does an awesome job with that.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. Sarah, what's happening in your world?
Well, we're finished with harvest. It is over. It wasn't a pretty harvest, that is for certain. A lot of rain and warm nights over the summer led to a lot of sour rot in some of our varieties, Riesling, Pinot Gris. We had to go through and drop a lot of fruit. We still had some big yields, but those were water diluted. So there's a lot of juice, but it doesn't have a lot of sugar in it. So you're going to have a lot of lower alcohol wines from the 2021 vintage, but it is done. So we're happy with that.
All right, thank you. Tom Pacer, how about apples? How'd they make out?
Apple harvest is complete. The crop was estimated to be a little lower than average. And I think when we're all said and done, we're going to be pretty close to average crops. All the rain that hurt other crops, actually, the apples were larger. So it didn't take quite as many apples to make a bushel. And overall it was good harvest, movement's good. Demand appears to be good. So should be a decent season. On the packing side, we went through a pretty rough September with COVID. September and early October, that seems to, at least in our group, subsided. Went through the system and cleaned us out for about 10 days, but we're back to full strength. So I think that's common.
Yeah. Have you had any trouble with getting enough employees?
Knock on wood, we're actually at full staff, and it's the first time in 18 months
good.
that we have been.
That's great.
So,
Okay. Mr. Manikowski, did you have something you wanted to share?
Simply, Rick, we're dealing with the interesting challenge in economic development of having so many programs out there for COVID relief to all types of businesses and business sectors. You know, we started with the PPP, the EIDL, but now the state has weighed in with a lot of money. Haven't quite figured out how they're going to deploy it yet. So we put together a team for kind of hand-holding technical assistance, especially to small businesses in our county. So there's a one-stop place they can go to get help in preparing these applications. And we're running our own program for the tourism and hospitality industry called CARES. So it's an interesting challenge. How do very busy people in small businesses really find the time to fill out all this paperwork, to understand the requirements of these programs, and to get involved and get relief and get help, especially for looking towards the 2022 season. So we're trying to put together an integrated system that makes sense. So there's a one-stop place for these folks to go so they can peruse and get technical assistance on all of these programs.
That's great. Thanks for the update and for all your efforts there.
Yep.
Mr. Kaufman, how are things going at the mall?
Really good, Rick, from a sales standpoint. It's been a really good year for us. Same struggles with hiring that I think a lot of other people are having. I think there's still some question on, the inventory levels, particularly as we get further into the season. I think it'll be an issue. Just don't know how big of an issue it's going to be. Is it going to be a minor or a major challenge for us? I guess one more reason maybe to go out and shop at your favorite store rather than to order online. You can walk home with that merchandise, but it's going to be. I think it's going to be a little bit of a challenge again. I guess my sense is it's not going to be huge, but it's going to be something to keep an eye on, anyways. But overall, good year for us so far, and I think nationally, it's been a good year for the retail industry.
All right, well, good luck this holiday season.
Thank you.
Okay, any other trends or concerns? Anyone like to share?
Yeah, I would. Thanks. This is Randy D'Antonio, and from the state workforce side, we are hurting big time, particularly in the field of taking care of the developmentally disabled. We've got 11 group homes right now that will be suspended in Monroe, Ontario, and Livingston County because of staffing, the lack of direct care, and the lack of nursing staff. Our direct care staff, although I don't represent them, are being mandated to work doubles, triples, plus. Our nurses are leaving to go to travel nursing, which is paying much more lucratively and, is a different level of accountability that they have. And some of them have the flexibility to do that. It is also the same in the private world as far as developmental disabilities and the staffing crisis. They're about 60 to 65% fill rate, so the 35% vacant. This is beyond a crisis point. Folks should be aware that probably 15 houses were suspended and closed last year as well in the region, and Western New York is doing no better. So it's all over the state, but it's situated heavily up here, and this will affect people's quality of life. So I think the same as everywhere else, short staffing. The governor did lift the hiring freeze, but as we know, state government doesn't always work fast. So getting people in the door and onboarded isn't happening quickly. So thanks.
Wow, that's really,
I just
really
have a
unfortunate.
question
Thanks for sharing.
Rick, I just want to add from Ontario ARC's perspective, we also, serving people with developmental disabilities are in a staffing crisis. However, in September, we were able to increase our pay rate significantly. And as a result, we've hired over 45 staff since September, and I had over 400 applications, where before we couldn't even get people to apply for our position. So it was definitely a risk on the agency and the board's part to figure out how we're going to pay for it. But it's paying off, because obviously we're losing money when we're paying people, overtime and not able to provide the services that we need to provide to people. So we're not out of the woods, but we're happy that we took that chance with the increased pay rates, and and so it definitely seems to be helping so far. Like everyone else with the vaccine mandate, we may or test out an option. I guess there will be a test out option. We may look at losing more staff again, so we're kind of trying to prepare for that. But our rate of staff leaving has also gone down since we increased our rates. So hoping for the best.
Well, that's good. Eileen, did you have something to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, kind of what's being shared here is across all human services arrays. We at DSSC, kind of touch just about every human services system, and we're seeing that everywhere, that facilities are closing or eliminating beds, nursing homes. We're seeing lots of stuff in programs for kids. Residential programs for kids are being closed, or beds are being eliminated because there's just not staffing.
And often it's related to the pay and just the difficulty of the work. So it's really all across the human services continuum, I would say.
Thank you. This is a huge issue. Maybe we should think about having this be a key topic at a future board meeting. We'll talk about that offline. Dr. Nye, did you have something?
Good morning. Sorry, I was a couple of minutes late. What I did want to say is we do have at least the ability to help a little bit potentially, and that's through our applied learning and internship program. And if you have certain needs, I'd offer that you contact Jay Donahue, our applied learning internship coordinator. It's not a perfect fit, but the more we have our students that are working close to their field or in their field, they're part of the workforce and they're part of this whole puzzle that we're working with. So I encourage you to at least reach out if you have specific areas where you think you might need a student that has some experience, minimal experience, some educational experience in a field related to what you're doing. We won't be able to fit everybody in or do what's there, but it's another resource for people. I just want to make sure that that's out there.
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna jump in there because it's gonna tie in with what Dr. Nye just mentioned. So, what's happening in the Porter County workforce system is we are starting to see movement. Individuals and working families are coming back online. So I think, more connectivity and making sure that, we're all versed and offering and making sure it's what we do anyway. But Rick, I think again, pinning this conversation and how do we get more coordinated and comprehensive with the opportunities that are out there, the need that's out there, and making sure everything's lined up with our training and education partners, leading directly to employment. That's going to segue into something else, but Lori's sitting right here next to me, and I know she wanted to add to the conversation as well.
Of course. One thing I want to point out is we're hearing a lot about offering higher wages as being the fix for getting people back into the workforce. I want to point out that I'm hearing from a lot of employers that higher wages are not a permanent fix. Higher wages are tending to be, in our market anyway, I think, and this may be a broad opinion on my part, but we're finding that these employers I've talked to are finding that they pay the higher wage, they spend money training and time devoting to these new hires to educate them on the systems they're learning, and then there's no loyalty. Somebody will bark up the next tree for another 50 cents an hour, not considering a benefit package, not considering the long-term ramifications, those kinds of things. I think that's going to be a bigger problem for employers going forward. And I just kind of wanted to put that out there. The other thing I wanted to ask is maybe some of you that have talked about the state hiring challenges and homes closing and mental health facilities, beds, things like that. Maybe you could share with the group in an email or something as to what the immediate solutions are to do with those patients. What are they doing with that? Because that's scary to me for the patients and everyone that works for them. So I'm just putting it out there.
That's actually a perfect segue to our presentation to introduce, what is next beyond wages, what is next. So thank you for that. And we'll hear a little bit about that later in the presentation.
All right. Anything else on economic issues or trends? Well, thanks everyone who shared there. That's a lot going on. Program changes, anything that we need to address there?
Yeah, so just very quickly, a little bit, what we were saying is we're starting to see movement in the workforce system across the 4 counties. So this is something that we wanted to add to the agenda as we're talking about the critical mass need for folks, what also is happening in the workforce system. So we've started loosely collecting data because there wasn't in-person traffic for a large portion of the pandemic. And as some offices stayed open, other offices are reopening. We've been also collecting remote and virtual activity. So Julia Murphy, I'm going to pass it to you to talk a little bit about what we're starting to see. I think it's important as we go forward to understand in our local region, the community, unemployed folks coming back into the workforce system, looking for supports and services, either for education and training and back into employment. And then Mike Wilson can give an update with the Career Center activity. Julia, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so I last time we met, I updated you that we finally received all our staff back after being reassigned for unemployment. So I wanted to give you an update on what they've been doing and how much they've been doing. So we've been, since the last week of June, engaging every work search required unemployment insurance recipient. And our program is a little intensive. There's actually 3 required appointments that they attend. The first one could be up to 2 hours, and this is where they're getting a full assessment, looking at their education experience, goals, barriers, and addressing those to come up with what's next steps. You know, how can you map out your work search from here? They're actually given a written formal work search plan, which is what holds them accountable for meeting the requirements of unemployment insurance. So it's clear that they know it's expected of them. If they aren't doing it, then unemployment will hold them accountable for that. They get a resume, they get job referrals, they get information on the labor market based on their interests and goals. And then they attend 2 more appointments if they haven't reattached to the workforce. And that's, you know, following up with them. Have you had interviews? Is the resume working? How did the interviews go? Do we need to work on that? Basically identifying what their needs are based on how their work search is going. They're given more labor market information. They're given more job referrals. And then, you know, just because they complete those 3 appointments, if they're not back to work, we don't just say you're done. Staff continue to engage them either by email or phone or video conference to, you know, check in with them and see how things are going, find out what they need. Oftentimes the job seekers reaching out to their labor service rep that they already have that rapport with. So as far as how much they've done, so that's what they've been doing, aside from just handling any non-unemployment insurance customer going in. I have numbers on that too. So since the end of June, they've engaged in the Finger Lakes 616 job seekers individually for a total of 975 appointments. So that's a lot of time that they've been spending with people. And then the non-UI customers, just people looking for help or just have questions, that sort of thing. They've done 801 phone calls on that. Other things that have kind of changed with our programs based on being back at it and also the pandemic. In the past, we always had a pretty good workshop calendar every month in the Career Center. Obviously, we can't pack anybody into a workshop room anymore and do a classroom type workshop. So this actually has been a statewide effort and has gone virtual. So we have a pretty many more offerings, I should say, and more often in a week, you know, where we would maybe have 3 workshops a week. What's being offered now is 3 workshops a day, every day of the week, every day of the month. So anyone across the state can attend these virtual workshops that's being held by an employment counselor somewhere in the state. So we've had actually, I can't say individuals, but 260 attendances, that's a word, from the Finger Lakes, from our 4-county region have attended those workshops since the end of June as well. And then the other thing is our business service team. Some of you have participated, have been doing virtual job fairs now. And going forward, we're going to be doing those monthly. There was one last month that in October, we had 72 businesses attend that and this is the 9-county region we have to count for. And there were 248 job seekers that attended that. Last week, there was another one with 43 job businesses and 228 job seekers. And going forward, they're going to be held monthly with a cap of about 50 businesses. They find that's the best way to get the most traffic to the booths. And that next one's going to be December 8th, and then monthly going forward to there. So as far as our programming, lots of changes, lots of evolving. Even though we still aren't seeing people in person, although we have a plan that just kind of put on hold. We're waiting on a security guard in Geneva. We're going to start seeing people in person for the reemployment appointments. We are busy and we are serving. So with that, I know Mike's going to talk about Career Center stuff, but I figured I would also mention that my Lions staff, we're not going to have a new lease up in Wayne County with workforce development. So I've relocated staff to the Geneva office temporarily, and we are working on a new site up in Wayne County. But that staff continue to serve Wayne County residents virtually from Geneva. So, sorry, lots of stuff going on. I wanted to make sure you all are aware.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll just add that our monthly dashboard is showing increases in all the centers in terms of walk-in traffic and virtual traffic. These aren't huge increases, but they are, at least we're going in the right direction. And we'll be adding to the dashboard some granular information about specifically what those career centers are, how many people are actually walking in and what kind of services are they receiving. We're going to start reporting out on that in January. So we'll have some more information on that. COVID has really required us to kind of look at how we're providing services. Julie was just talking about virtual services. A couple other things we offer now are Skill Up, which is over 5,000 courses people can take if they are living in the 4-county area. And then, of course, we have the statewide program through the Department of Labor, Coursera. So along with your brick and mortar, we also have online opportunities as well. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Privilege of the floor. Is there anything else to share? Len, are we good there?
All set, thank you.
All right. Thank you. I hate to be a pain, but Eileen and Rob, you can put your hands down now.
Oh. Sorry, I thought it went down automatically.
Yeah, not so much. All right.
Sorry, I'll
Committee
fix it now.
Committee updates, finance and audit. Did Mr. Doblin join us?
He did not.
Glenn, you want to give a brief update there?
Thanks, that's gonna be Debbie Sowers.
Hi.
All right.
So we've been working on the audit all summer, and I'm happy to report that Mark Waterstrom is here to report out on that and give everybody the update and the final results. Other than that, we're watching the budgets. We were able to give the counties some additional youth funds. So we're just gonna get back into the regular mode now that we've got the audit underneath us, and we'll get back into our regular scheme of things and get going.
All right, thank you. Governance and membership, Mr. Manikowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we're in good shape. I'll again turn it over to Lynn to verify that we are in pretty good shape. I just want to welcome Erica Wright from Finger Lakes Extrusion to the board, and Erica serves on our board here with the Ontario County Economic Development Corporation. So it's great to have her on board. Lynn, anything you want to add to this in terms of vacancies? Anything we need?
Yeah, you're correct, Mike. We're actually in really good shape. We have a full board minus one position in Seneca County, and we're working on that. And again, thank you to all other new board members, Jim Sinacropi and Julie Maslin. Thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that. That's the report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Marketing and communications, Pete, you with us?
I am. You'd think 18 months into Zooming, I'd be able to unmute myself, but here we are. The Marketing Communications Committee, we've been meeting monthly just to really serve as a sounding board for the staff as they navigate through Finger Lakes hires and some of the other initiatives that they're working on. So the minutes are obviously available for everybody to read if they're interested, but Hats off to the great work that Lynn and Jen and Mike and the rest of the team have been doing, trying to engage with people digitally. The social media numbers look good. The traffic to the website looks good. I'd say Finger Lakes Hires has been a very successful initiative.
Very good. Thanks, Pete. All right, performance and evaluation. Ms. Baker?
The Performance and Evaluation Committee last met back in October. We had some guests with us, Jen DeVault, Todd Sloan, and Mike Smith. They helped us review the demand occupation list so we could look at different various sectors of employment. And we have decided that that is going to be a continued practice moving forward. Mike reviewed the on-the-job training report for us for past year 2020, which he indicated had an 87% overall success rate. He spoke a little bit earlier with regards to the Skill Up and made us aware that they have made some changes to the Skill Up platform, which includes gamification of courses, allowing users to test their new knowledge by playing games, and staff was being trained on that. So that should help serve, I'm going to say, the younger generations coming forward looking for training and help them better. And then Julie Murphy also gave us a DOL Career Center update at that meeting, and our next meeting is scheduled in December.
All right, thank you. Economic development, Mr. Manikowski.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had the Economic Development Committee meeting. Oh, help me, Mike Wilson, I believe in September, October. We usually meet
October
once a
7th.
quarter. Yeah, thanks, Mike. And we invited to that meeting Greater Rochester Enterprise, and they made an excellent presentation about the work they do in the 9-county region in terms of marketing and retention and attraction and expansion. I think both the economic developers and the workforce development people that were at the meeting gained a lot of knowledge about the work that GRE does. And we tried to encourage GRE and the WIB to network as much as possible, especially with Finger Lakes Hires, to see if there was opportunity for them to support us. It doesn't look like they can support us financially, but I think the networking opportunities will be helpful. I don't know, do you want to comment on that, Lynn or Mike?
I think you covered it.
Okay, that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Youth Committee, Ms. Parrish.
Okay, we last met last week, welcoming Drea to leading our meeting. Drea shared information in the youth committee guidance and noted that we seem to be meeting the guidance that's provided by the state and the federal laws. Committee was updated on a 3 career cluster event scheduled for March of 2023. A walkthrough was done on the FLCC campus to look at some of the early logistics planning. I inquired about the response for the timing change during the year from going from October to March. Initial response and feedback has been positive for those that have responded. Of course, transportation will continue to be an issue, especially with preparing for school bus drivers and things like that. Some topics were brought up regarding, possible challenges now with the location changing for some of the schools to get there and be able to spend time. And it's 3 career events now instead of 1. How do we work that all out? So that's what the committee is going to be focused on, I think. We may need to apply an attendance cap if, because of the 3 career cluster, we feel that it's going to draw a lot more people. So we're looking at that ahead of time too. Jeremy Hughes committed to noting that BOCES was still interested in participating as much as they have in the past. And Drea responded looking for volunteers for the RFP committee. And I was going to ask Drea to talk a little bit about that while we're on the subject of the youth committee. It's an important task we have to complete, and I believe she's looking for volunteers for that committee. Drea?
Hi, everybody. So I have a tentative timeline for the RFP for the youth programs to come out. So I've actually served on this RFP youth committee previously, And really, it's just a group of people who are interested in delving in, going through the RFP applications, and then really figuring out what programs would be best fit for the youth moving forward. So I believe, I don't have the timeline in front of me, but I believe it would be April, May, when anyone who is interested could go through the applications, and then we would meet 2 to 3 times for a few hours to go through, ask questions so that we can go back to the applicants and get those answers, and then move forward those accepted RFPs through the process. So I will be sending out, I have a few people who have said that they may be interested, but I'll have a more definite timeline in the near future.
Thanks, Dre. I'd like to throw in that the couple of times that I did that process really educated me on what the youth programs are offering in their county, respective counties. So I think it would be a good experience for anybody who wants to take a stab at it in April and May. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. FAME update. So with FAME, we sent out emails to the membership about 4 or 5 weeks ago, soliciting donations for the student award account. That's funded at a really healthy level right now. It's a little over $60,000, which is allows us to provide a $1,000 award to an FLCC student that's pursuing an education and a career in advanced manufacturing, and that's the intent of that endowed account. In addition, FAME, we're setting up a strategic planning session with a consulting firm called Causewave. That'll kick off after the holidays, as we come into the new year, and looking for a few people to participate in that with us. And FAME continues its search for the next chairperson. And that's something that we'll probably dial in on more in the spring as we figure out our path forward. Lynn, anything else to add there?
You covered it.
All right, then. Director's report, Ms. Freed.
Okay, thank you. From the last survey results, the meeting evaluation that we've got sent out to you, Mike Willison and I met with KSA Training Solutions. So one of the things that we've heard back is that businesses are interested in different trainings. KSA is a training facilitator that had a lot of the items that were on that list. We're at the end of this meeting and in the meeting notes, we'll have a link to that for businesses can check it out if there's something there that you like. They would also offer that if more than one business is interested in the same trainings, that they would do a consortium of group trainings. So obviously there's cost savings there if more than one employer. So the WIB would be happy if folks wanted to say what they're interested in and send it back to us. We would be happy to coordinate that effort. So that was in response to the last meeting evaluation. Also at the last board meeting, we presented on a trauma-informed workplace. There was significant positive feedback on that. Mike Wilson has taken that and is moving that training and the trainings that are available to the one-stop center, which is a 9-county region. So additional staff will go through and have access to trauma-informed training. Another topic that's come up that we're still organizing and getting together is better understanding, and this came up earlier in conversation, salary studies for comparable jobs, what's happening lifetime, what is that looking like? So we're working with the Department of Labor and other resources to pull this data and information and more to come later. I also want to thank John the business service representative. So we've got John Celso from Wayne County, Michael Sykes from Ontario, John Bravo from Seneca, and Joe Davis, Yates County. We've been working on the on-the-job policy, on-the-job training policy, the OJT. We've been spending quite a few hours over the last couple of months updating it and getting it most relevant. We will get this to the board probably early January for review and to be passed at the January board meeting. So that's something that's coming. And then lastly, the Department of Labor has announced that it is going to fund for up to 3 years a disabilities resource coordinator. This would bring an individual into the region. One of the things that we're finding is we're looking and going through the labor crunch, the labor hiring crunch crisis here, is that what are the pockets and pools of individuals that might need additional supports and services that can get into the workforce. The RFP for that should be coming out either at the end of November or early December. So there's more information. That's a very, very brief overview. But that's to help with networking, connectivity through the 4-county region. Again, assisting individuals to come back into work. And that's it for me.
All right, thank you. That's a lot. All right, so our presentation, Lynn, do you want to do an introduction there?
Sure. So we have Mandy Townsend from.
No, this is the Bonadeo Group.
Oh, I've got that. Okay, all right, we're gonna.
You're getting ahead of us, Lynn.
Are we? So next on my agenda is the business consent. Do you want to move to that, Rick?
We're up to the presentation by Mark Waterstrom.
Okay. All right. Debbie.
All right. Well, I'm here.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
No problem. I will share my screen here if it's okay, and we shall go through this presentation. I did meet with the Audit and Finance Committee about 3 weeks ago to go through this information in detail. So we will try to keep on track here and go through this at a reasonably good clip. So are you able to see the screen okay? All right, let's see. So this is for the audit for the year ended June 30, 2021. The purpose of this meeting is I meet with the board annually to give you the opportunity to ask me any questions, but also to deliver my report to you. Pending your acceptance of the financial statements, we will move forward with issuing clean or unmodified opinion once we finish going through some of our final quality checks. Due to the level of federal funding, there is a single audit involved, which entails some additional testing relating to federal funds, and that we found no issues in that. And overall, we didn't find any material weaknesses in the controls in place at the organization that need to be brought to the attention of the board. There's certain required communications that we are required to discuss or relate to the board. There is a formal letter in the back which goes through all of these things in details, but just to kind of summarize some of the key points. There weren't any changes in policies during the year. We didn't see any transactions that were entered into the year that lack guidance or support. We do review the estimates involved in financial statements, find those reasonable. There was only one audit entry during the year, so that was good. And all in all, a very smooth audit. It was performed really kind of the same time frame as last year. No disagreements with management, and all in all, it went smooth. From a summary of the activity standpoint, this shows a 5-year trend. Total revenues, 2.2 million. And the bottom line is a break even, a loss of 932. So this is really what we kind of expected to see during the year, especially since the organization is pretty much funded by grants that are paid for by what you expend. And due to the pandemic, there really weren't any additional programs that could be held to change the bottom line much. Also, there wasn't any releases from restrictions from donations, since those programs couldn't be operated either. The one thing that you can see different is on the second line there, the payroll protection loan forgiveness. In the prior year, you did borrow $79,000 under the program. That was able to be forgiven during the year, so that picked up you were able to pick that up as revenue and did not have to pay back. So that helped support the operations to bring that again to a break-even result.
Hey,
Just
Mark,
to-
I'm so
Yes.
sorry to interrupt, but I'm only seeing the Zoom screen. I'm not seeing your presentation. I don't know if anybody else is.
Oh, really?
That is what I'm seeing as well. I'm not seeing the presentation.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can try to reshare again here. Let's see. How's that?
There you go.
That looks
Yeah,
much
we're
more
being
like a
okay.
financial audit.
I'm sorry. All right, so that's better now? I'm sorry, I was using a
Much better,
split
thank you.
screen and had it up on the wrong screen. So my apologies.
No
So
problem.
okay, so this was the screen I was just on. So the other presentation were just wording. So this shows you the 5-year trends of the revenues and the expenses with the bottom line. So again, the second line being the payroll protection loan forgiveness. The revenues and expenses by year, this is just a graphical version which shows over the years. I mean, one of the there had been downtrends with the RIOA grants, which is your major funder for several years. That seemed to straighten out, but then also the opioid contract was the next larger one, which is starting to put the uptick on the revenue side. From a revenue breakout point, this was something we've kind of discussed over the past of really the reliance on RIOA. You can see the top line being total revenue compared to how much of that revenue is reliant on one grant. And the other revenue is from various other sources. About half of that would be from opioid. From an expense breakout, let's see. So the largest one being the payments to providers. There was a new provider this year with the Soda Central School. So that's what increased that. And customer training took somewhat of a dip just because of the pandemic and the mode of operation. From an administrative standpoint, it's still operating at a 7.5%, same as the prior year. So that's been pretty consistent over the years. From a balance sheet highlight, these are your assets and the liabilities. Cash at the end of the year, $298,000. We'll see the grants at $252,000 and current liabilities of $396,000. Those numbers can be relatively large only because of the timing between when the invoices are received from the counties, when the states bill. But in the end, they kind of cancel out, as well as the cash received to fund the operation. So in the net assets, the donor restriction does go back to the Del Lago contribution for several years ago. That has been used over time for the program that it was intended to. And as I mentioned previously, it was not used during the current fiscal year. Some of the key ratios involved, in cash on hand, when you look at excluding restricted funds, 38 days, that is approximately a little bit over a month of operations that you have in cash at the moment. Receivables turn around relatively quickly, almost similar, about a month and a half that they use to turn around. Current ratio, which would be current assets divided by current liabilities, is a measure of equity, or a measure of liquidity, I'm sorry, and that's over 1. And liabilities to net assets at 2.49. So all in all, the balance sheet is in good shape. So again, it's not an organization that compiles a lot of assets. So you're not going to really see over a short period of time a large net asset position or large cash position or whatever. But for the organization you're in good shape. A couple of things on the other matters. We do include in the financial statements a contingency footnote relating to the uncertainties regarding the pandemic. We know the government has been pretty good over the past year or so, trying to keep money into the public to keep things going, but we don't know the backside of that yet. Once that frees up and how the state agencies and federal government decides to turn things around and redirect spending. So the fiscal year includes a few really significant events that the organization had to, I guess, suffer through, so to speak, or survive through. One, of course, the pandemic and really the change in operations as so many things go virtual. There was turnover in upper management, both at with Lynn coming on board and with Barb at CFO exiting. So that was something that has had been a longstanding team, so to speak. So there are changes there. And then there were some definitely struggles with the banking check issue that occurred during the year, which really made it difficult to pay bills and to operate. So there was certainly a lot of challenges this year. So the fact that we were able to get through the audit and things look good, that's definitely a testament to the team. So again, with the change in some of the personnel, their management did make some changes in some of their policies and procedures, which I felt were appropriate to make sure that the controls were still in place, second eyes looking at things. And they recently brought in a person on a part-time basis to help support the financial reporting process, which I thought was very a good move based on the current status. Let's see. I'll go through the other stuff relatively quickly, but at this point, I just want to take three things on this slide. One, I did have an executive session at the Audit and Finance Committee, so there really isn't a need to have a executive session at this level. And so at this point, are there any questions or comments before I move on? Okay, so we'll go through this hopefully within the next 5 minutes, which should keep us pretty much on track of the time schedule here. I mentioned to you before that there's a formal required communications letter. That is what this is. It's a 3-page letter that goes into a little bit more detail than the bullet points, but it's set up to explain the communications that we were supposed to communicate, as well as our response to those communications. Again, in the end, no difficulties in performing the audit and nothing really to be brought to the attention. The financial statements themselves, these are a little bit more difficult to go over on a screen or in detail, which is why we really try to summarize everything into the PowerPoint presentation and look at it over a 5-year trend rather than a 2-year trend. So this is the standard audit opinion. Which, as I mentioned, will be cleaner, unmodified. So it's a little bit longer than others because of the fact that it is a single audit, so there are some additional reports in the back regarding compliance and controls. From a balance sheet standpoint, this just shows a little bit more detail, or not much more detail, as to the balance sheet. I had mentioned in the prior year, the PPP note was a liability because that's when you had received the money, and then you utilized it and picked it up as income in the current year. Again, the only thing that's a little bit different here on the format with the statement of activities is we do break out separate the donor restrictions money, and again, nothing really happened with that during the year. All right, and this one is a hard one to show on screen, but this shows the detail expenses by program. And it's a 2-page form. So if you want to look at more detail as to how the money is spent or where the money is spent, this is the particular form to look at. And the cash flow is just the in and the out of the cash. So nothing too exciting there. I'll just call a few things to your attention in the footnotes. These are fairly lengthy. A lot of it's boilerplate, deals with accounting standards and accounting policies. Just a couple things to note. Let's see, when we get down to all right, this is the discussions regarding the restricted assets and the when it's released, that gives information. There was 8,600 released in the prior year. Note 5 discusses the PPP loan and gives a little bit more detail about that. We'll go down to the payment to providers. This is the big jump. As I had mentioned, there was a new provider here, Soda Central School, which caused the youth program expenses to increase, and that definitely sticks out. But other than that, the trend in payments are pretty straight or consistent with prior years. And let's see, the commitments and contingencies, that just relates to any leased property, which would be your office space, as well as I think there's a copier in there. And as I mentioned, there is a paragraph in here regarding COVID-19 and the uncertainties involved. And last but not least, the single audit includes a few things. One, there's 2 opinions, one being the opinion on compliance, which again, no issues there. There's another opinion regarding internal controls for compliance. And again, that's another clean opinion there. These are just all boilerplate opinions. And then when we get down to the actual schedule of expenditures, these are by grant, how the money was spent. And the expenditures to the subrecipients would be the grant money that was used to pay to the subrecipients, which would be predominantly the counties. And this is just the footnotes, which is boilerplate. And then the schedule of findings and questioned costs. This is the other required part of the single audit, which just summarizes whether or not there were any issues regarding the audit, identifying which was we tested as a major program, and mentioned that there were no findings or in the current or in the prior year. So with that, I think I'm on pretty much good time frame here. I don't know if there's any questions or comments at this point. Again, as I mentioned, I thought all things considered, with all the changes that occurred during the year and the challenges, I thought management did a good job of adapting and carrying through to be able to be in a position to have us audit and have the audit result in such good results. So,
Well, thank you, Mark. Thanks for sharing with us and supporting and sharing your perspective. Any questions for Mark before we move on? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
We'll move on to new business and the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from our September 15th meeting?
Motion.
So move, Town Facer.
Okay, Jen, did you get both of those?
I only got Tom Facer. Who was the
Alright.
first?
Lori.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? All right, hearing none, we'll take a vote to approve the minutes. Everyone say aye.
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 Any nays? Very good. And we've got a couple resolutions. Lynn, do you want to give us an overview on these resolutions?
Sure. So the first one is approval for the audit that we just had a presentation on. And then the second one goes back to the activity that we did with the performance and evaluation, where we took what the Department of Labor had as demand occupation lists, and we had the meeting with different industry folks, and that's been updated to be more reflective of our 4-county regional area.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to approve these as a block?
So moved.
That was Mike Krasinko, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Second?
I'll
Tom
second.
Pacer.
Michelle jumped in as second. Thanks, Michelle. All right, any questions or concerns about these resolutions? All right, hearing none, everyone vote aye if they're in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And those pass. Thank you very much. And can we get back to our agenda? So next, we have a special presentation. Lynn, you want to do an introduction for Mandy?
I would love to.
Thank you.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mandy Townsend, we're happy to welcome you. Mandy is with JBS Boston. Mandy has worked with Mr. Plimpton and the Aspen Institute and we're going to have an overview presentation of the 5 pillars of job quality, which ties into a lot of the conversation that we had this morning. So Mandy, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Lynn. Thanks so much. And thanks, Rick, for making the introduction. I'm actually from northwestern sort of Pennsylvania. So the Finger Lakes is like close to my home. It's where we went. So I feel like I'm coming home. I love listening to you all talking. Feels like my family. So thanks for having me. I wanted to talk briefly today about some work that we're doing up here in Boston that's sort of relevant nationwide in the volatile talent market that we're in right now. Lynn and Rick have talked a lot about what your board consists of and that you're all sort of part of this collaboration of folks trying to improve job quality in your region and also leaders in your industries. And so thought it would be great to talk about the tool that we have developed to sort of determine what job seekers are actually looking for in work and also be most competitive in the job market, particularly right now. So JBS Boston is a large workforce development organization in the greater Boston region. We see about 12,000 job seekers every year, and we work with about 500 employers. So we're quite large. And so we have been scanning the landscape. And as we sit at this intersection of talent and companies, we've learned a lot, from both sides, the challenges of improving elements of jobs, but also what job seekers are looking for in order to stay in jobs, particularly right now. We're an employer ourselves, and we're seeing a lot of retention issues, as I'm sure echoes a lot of the things that are happening in your companies. And so I wanted to just share our tool and think about, as your board, how we might be able to use this in your region to help each company improve their competitive advantage, but also get, some practice changes that really make a difference in intergenerational wealth for the talent that we work with and our employees. So I'm going to pull up a slide if I can share my screen. So give me just one sec. All right, so you with me? So we're talking about Job Quality Benchmarking Index, which is our tool that we developed today. And really the reasons that we focused on this and really we started this work in the softer, sort of still tight, but softer labor market back in 2018, 2019. And then of course the pandemic hit and things haven't gotten so easier. They've gotten actually much harder to find and secure talent. So we're looking to help our job seekers achieve economic mobility and also to leverage the labor market conditions to build good habits. And, we were challenged at one point, like, oh, you're working with job seekers and you're working with employers to make jobs better. Is this something you're just doing on the side, or is it really your mission? So we were challenged to not make it our hobby, but instead make it our mission. And so what we did was we surveyed our job seekers and we surveyed our career coaches, of which we have about 60, to find out what they would report are the most important pillars of job quality for people at any given time. And what we learned really is that the definition of job quality is not about wages. There's always a push, and certainly wages are important, but there's a push and a huge demand to increase the bottom and raise the minimum wage, which is definitely something that we need to do. But for job seekers, it's really not about that all the time. And it's about where they are in the journey of their own economic path and their career laddering. And so what we found was we asked our staff and we asked our clients, and we drilled down to these top 5 pillars that lined up with what our staff and what our clients were saying. And so the 5 most important things are salary and wage, schedule flexibility and or predictability, the availability of benefits, access to a career ladder, and a supportive work environment that has the sub-pillars that you can see below. And these are in a list and they say 1 to 5, but they are not in subsequential order. So I like to say that if someone's a young college student, perhaps they're trying to save as much money as they can to pay off their college, right? So salary and wage would be most important to that job seeker. But if you're talking to a young professional who maybe just had a child, schedule flexibility would be most important, because being able to do drop-offs and pickups could be very important. If you're talking to, my boss who's about to retire, our CEO, access to benefits and a robust retirement package might be most important. So it really depends on where someone is in their journey of their career as to what's most important and rising to the top for them. So even though these are in an order, they're not sequential, and they really have different weights depending on the individual who we're talking to. And then last summer, during the sort of dual pandemic that we were dealing with in terms of racial injustice in our country and the COVID-19 crisis, we added safety as a sub-pillar, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so you can see some of the questions around that. And how our tool actually works is we have these 5 pillars, and we centered a number of questions around each pillar. And employers can take a really quick survey. It takes about 20 minutes, and it can be done by the HR professionals or hiring managers. It's not meant to have to be done by the CEO or accumulate or acquire all this information from different levels of the organization. It really can be done quickly, because what the goal is to give you a benchmark of how you're scoring on these pillars against your peers. And let's say maybe your wage is not the highest, but perhaps you have the best benefits of the group. You'll find that out. So after an employer takes the survey, they get a sample report that looks like this. So I'll give everybody a minute just to kind of look at it, but this would be a sample summary report that you would get as an employer, where you could see the 5 pillars and how you're ranking. And so you might get this. So on the right-hand side, you can see it says job quality pillars. And this company, which is a sample company, is number 1 in wage. So they may be saying, yes, we're amazing. We're going to push that out. We're going to amplify that. But as you can see, out of 7 companies, the access to a career ladder is number 7. And so they might get that and say, oh gosh, well, we're the worst in this category. What could we do here? How do we improve this? And so the way that we always work with employers is really in true partnership. And we always give an employer an area to celebrate something they're doing really well. So for example, this company is offering really competitive wages. And then we give an area to sort of think about or focus on. And so an area here could be developing career ladders. And we have some ideas and best practices around that. And on the left side, you'll see there's a job quality profile. So you'll see this company's score in orange is 44, and the average score of the benchmark set is 47. So they're a little lower than the benchmark group on a lot of the components of job quality. And they have a little ways to go to reach the employer of choice benchmark, which is 75%. One other thing that I want to say about this report is that we started asking companies, tell us about all your entry-level jobs. So your CDC workers, your chefs, your cooks, your childcare workers, et cetera. And we found that it was very hard for an employer to compare all the entry-level positions, because they had different shifts, they had different benefits, they had different wages. And so the way that our index works is actually comparing job by job. So let's say you have a dishwasher and another company has a dishwasher. This report is only going to compare dishwashers to dishwashers. So you're actually getting apples to apples comparison. So a lot of the big companies that are doing this around the country are doing it on basically all entry-level jobs, or sort of a broad stroke comparison. And ours really hones in on job title specific comparisons, because we think it's more robust data to compare. And for many years, our employers would say, tell me how I'm doing on this. How are my wages compared to so-and-so? Am I offering this benefit? So we developed this quantitative and qualitative tool to be able to provide actual data rather than anecdotal information to our partners. And we've seen some real change based on this. And it's been a very, very interesting journey for us as we go through with our employer partners, because an employer will get this report and give it to their leadership team and say, oh my God, we need to do something about wages. We are really underperforming here, or we need to do something. And then we can engage in a deeper coaching session where we go question by question, and they can see how they're stacking up against others. And we give some suggestions on how to improve practices. And these can be low cost, low time intensive to high cost, high time intensive. Obviously, if you're increasing your wage, there's going to be compression issues. You're going to have to increase it across the company. But offering someone a bus pass, that's sort of a simple math equation of figuring out how many bus passes you need to have and multiplying it by your workforce, and then figuring out if that can be feasible or not. So there's some lower cost solutions and there's definitely some higher cost solutions, but taking the survey is really just the first place to start. And so we've seen some 3 employers increase their wages due to this reporting, and then 4 employers adding different benefits that other employers had. The information is redacted, so you'll never see, oh, company A compared to company B compared to company C. You'll only see your own data against a confidentially redacted data set, so you won't know who has participated in the data set. But we've seen employers changing benefits, collapsing scheduling to create full-time jobs. And then because of that, their employees are more likely to retain and stay in their jobs, and there's been higher satisfaction. So the uptake of those benefits for the 4 employers was incredible. They went from 25% to 35% in a couple of weeks when they added the benefit. So, and for us, we're able to say to our job seekers, hey, this company is really making some great improvements. Maybe you should go check them out. And so we can direct our job seekers to companies that are changing some of their practices, and we can help them amplify the changes that they've made and help them get a little bit more market share in terms of chatting and being attractive to the talent pool. So I'm going to stop there. I have a little demo I can show you, but I want to stop and see if there's questions. I don't want to just sort of yammer on over here on Zoom and just more have a conversation. So I'll stop my share and see if folks have any questions.
Mandy, I don't know if you can hear me.
I can.
Oh, I'm interested. Do you factor in, COVID vaccination mandates, that sort of thing into the quality of the employer?
That's a great question. When we actually launched this on its own platform, so we actually made an intentional investment to create a tailored software. This was prior to the vaccine availability. It was right at the beginning of COVID. So I think next year, we're going to have to think about maybe adding a question about vaccine mandates, et cetera. We're sort of waiting to see what happens. I mean, we're all employers here as well, trying to think about the mandates that are coming down. But it's something I'm thinking about for next year. But when we launched it last June, there were no vaccines. We do ask about PPE. We ask about ergonomics and some different safety at work, panic alarms, et cetera. We also ask if someone gets COVID or gets sick at work, if there's paid time off, or if they're paid for the remainder of their shift. So there's some questions around it, but specifically to the vaccine question, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mandy, just to be clear, most of the work that you've done in the Boston area is with healthcare providers. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Yep. We work a lot with healthcare providers, although relevant to you all, I think in your region, manufacturing is quite big. I always say there's a dearth of the 4 C's: chefs, childcare workers, CNAs, and CDC or CNC manufacturing roles. And so we're really getting into that. We're getting pressed on all sides to sort of fill manufacturing roles. And so we have 3 licensees across the country who are using our tool. So one is in Syracuse, and I think they have some manufacturing employers as well thinking about using this tool for different sectors. We do a lot, or did a lot, in retail, hospitality as well, and that's a changing sector right now. Certainly, people are not going back to it as rapidly as before, but we do have a lot of benchmarking data in that area too. Rick, thanks for asking that question.
That's good to know that your tool is applicable for different market verticals.
Yeah, we have about 65 entry-level roles in there now, and we add more as we build our data sets. So once we have 5 companies with the same job title, we can give some comparable data that we feel is relevant and useful for someone. And so, yeah, like I said, right now we have focused on 65 really hard to fill positions across, that we've seen in both our Boston area, but also our licensee areas, and are open to adding more. And that's a very simple fix.
Andy, would you be able to share the presentation slides so that we? can
Yeah,
see?
absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent, thank you.
And Lynn or Rick, did you want to talk a little bit about how we're thinking about, how it'd be applicable in the region?
Sure, so Rick, go ahead, I see you.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, so I've worked with Mandy for a couple of years at the Aspen Institute on a fellowship for job quality, and I've always been impressed with the work that her group does. And this tool that they've developed, I think it could be interesting to bring this to the Finger Lakes region and make it available to organizations and companies that want to do a self-assessment and want to benchmark themselves and then make conscious decisions about where they should make improvements within their organization. I can see where this can provide a lot of advantage for the companies in our region. And then down the road, and I don't know if you've done this, Mandy, but down the road, finding some way to make information available to job seekers so that those individuals can make better decisions, conscious decisions about where they want to work based on the profile of the company that they're looking at.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. And I think that sums it up really well. So right now we're really focused on phase 1, which is the employer practice change phase. So getting large groups of employers to take the survey and really understand and benchmark themselves is really the first step. And then partnering with those employers to make some practice changes. We have a best practices manual that comes with coaching and says, okay, well, you don't have a career ladder. Here's how we can start. Let us help you. And so we set up coaching engagements with companies to help sort of create something maybe that isn't there or make something better as compared to what others are doing. So really phase 1 is employer phase. Phase 2, Rick, is what you're talking about, guiding job seekers. So once we have a robust data set, which we're building right now, we would like to sit with an employee or potential employee and say, okay, Rick, what's most important to you right now? Because again, that definition is so flexible. And if Rick says, hey, schedule is most important to me, he can go in the database and I can go in there and I can say, which companies have the best schedule? And I can pull up 4 different companies' names and I can suggest to Rick those companies to apply to. The thing we're working on and why this is phase 2 is that we're working on the confidentiality issues. We really don't want this to be used to punish employers or to be diminutive or say so-and-so employer doesn't have this and this thing. And so really our philosophy is that any employer who's participating is really intentionally trying to make some positive change. And so we're being very careful about rolling out our client use strategy because we want to make sure that we're holding client information, employer information in confidentiality, but also able to help clients make the best choice. So go to company A, they have the best benefits. Go to company B, they have a great supportive work environment. Go to company C, they have whatever you're looking for, but it can be filtered down and compared exactly to what a job seeker is looking for at any moment in time.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. So today's presentation is about creating awareness of this tool, and then we'll have follow-on discussions about whether or not it makes sense to bring it to the Finger Lakes region.
And after the meeting, I'll share a sample report with everyone so you can take it and dig in, kind of look at it. I can also share a detailed report, which is the question by question report, where you'll see sort of what one company says as opposed to the benchmark set. So you can sort of see how suggestions on practice change might be made.
I would add, again, on the meeting evaluation, employers, if this is something that you're interested in, please indicate that on the meeting evaluation. And as Rick says, we'll have follow-up on this, but we can reach out to have continued conversations about where we want to go potentially, should we decide we want to engage with this tool.
Yeah, and thanks, Lynn, and I'm very happy to meet with anyone individually to tell them more, to learn more. I can show some demo of what we're doing in the Boston area and Syracuse. We're also using it in Northern Kentucky and Colorado. So I can share some different regions and how they're using the tool to help, attract talent, but also help employers sort of be more competitive right now, particularly when it's very important. So let me know, or let Rick and Lynn know, and they'll connect with me, and I'll share the PowerPoint slide after that has my contact info.
Yep, and that's just what I was going to say. We'll make sure that your contact information is included in the notes.
Great. I think I saved you guys some time too, if you don't have any more questions.
Great presentation, loved it.
All right. Well, thank you, Mandy. Appreciate your time today. And
Hi,
we will-
everybody. Thank you.
We'll be talking more. Bye-bye. All right, so back to our agenda. Any other business or announcements?
I, one very small one, our annual report is out. A link will be connected to that. It is our first year that we've had a fully digital report, and I want to say thanks to Jen. She put a lot of work in it. And it came out, looks great. So look for that as well. Thank you.
Okay. And with regard to the next meeting, Wednesday, January 19th, after the holidays. And I guess it'll be a Zoom meeting again, yeah? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Anybody else? Got a second? Want to get on with your day?
Sure. I'll second.
Sure.
Thanks,
All of us.
Pete. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Rick.
Happy holidays.
Have a good one, everyone. Have
Yeah.
a nice holidays.
Take care.
Bye.